My name is Michael Lee of the Source Code Group, and this is an update on editing branch rules. So it's been a while since I provided an update on this, but I wanted to show you all where I'm at right now. So this is what the editing experience for editing branch rules is at right now. You have your branch rule details, you can delete it. You have your pattern, branch protections. I'm going to go in a bit about some of the extra words that have been added here, and then merge request approvals and status checks. So let's go back to how branch protections are done right now. You have the branch and wildcard, and then you have this ability to change who's allowed to merge and who's allowed to push and merge. My biggest pet peeve with all this is that for a simple, relatively simple kind of thinking setup, you want your protected branches to be to have changes be submitted with merge requests. You actually have to play around with these things, set your allowed to push and merge to no one, and you can do whatever with merge, like set whoever you want to be able to merge, but that's not very obvious and clear. And that was something that I really wanted to tackle as part of this as well, just updating the experience. Some other things that I wanted to address also were like these numbers that we have right now in our read-only view of details. I personally think that they don't make any sense. So developers and maintainers, that could be, that's two roles or many people inside, and we put this one here. So I think we can lose these numbers and make our UI a little bit more clear. At the beginning, maybe 6 months ago, this was the direction of the design, and some of the feedback around here was around, this is editing with a drop down, but this is editing with like a button and is very disjointed. And then with push keys, this was like the approach that I had at the time, and there could be multiple push keys here, deploy keys, for push and merge, and that's not very clear also. And at the same time, we have one layout for approvers, merge request approvers, and then a different layout for this. And recently, there have been some changes in settings, doing a single column instead of doing this 2-column thing, as well as the introduction of GL card to handle scenarios of presenting information like this, but also handling the scenario of presenting information and the approval rule. A month ago, this was the exploration I was doing with the GL card, where I have things listed out here and where you can add different roles and groups to allow it to merge. And I was playing around with this idea of, a checkbox to say that you want changes to be submitted with merge requests. But at the end of the day, it didn't really do anything, because there are some scenarios where you would want people to push to branches, but they're not really bypassing branch protections. It's just how you set up your repository to work like that. So I was playing around with this idea of bypass branch protection, which was a way to surface allowed to push and merge, and in a way it makes sense. But I think I made the UI a lot more busy and cluttered, especially with this kind of interaction for entering users. So I still ended up in this weird state where I was doing one thing for merge request approvals and one thing for branch protections. So let's walk through how the branch rules work and what that looks like today at the moment. So we have branch rules like this today. Everything's in GL card. We have this add branch rules. So in the scenario of viewing branch rules, if you don't have the ability to edit, you can probably see the branch rules here. Merge requests are required for all changes except those allowed to push and merge, and those people who are allowed to push and merge are those with the roles of administrator, maintainers, developers. So it just reads well together, and this doesn't allow forced pushing. So we're not disabling elements, we're actually presenting information in a read-only way. We already do this currently with our branch details, so there's just changing things up a little bit. And this is an example where nobody has been set up to push and merge, so therefore everyone's required to submit a merge request with the changes. So I feel that's a little bit clearer around what how you set up your branch protections. It actually reads like this. Potentially we could lose this line as well, or think of cleaning this up, actually like combining them. Let's go through an example of creating a branch rule, because I think that's more interesting. So with the branch rules, when you click add branch rule, you can add it by branch pattern or name, all branches and all protected branches. So this is all branches and all protected branches is something that exists in merge request approvals now, and we just want to support that with branch rules as well. So as you can see, there are 0 branch rules at this time. Okay, if you choose by the name or pattern, similar to how protected branches work right now, you click on it and you search for the name. If the name doesn't exist, you can create a wildcard. You click on that, and then it creates a branch rule with that pattern, and you can see that it's matching 16 branches. With the branch protections, this is all the default stuff that comes out. This, I think at the moment the default is actually 0, so we can change that, but there's a little toast to say that this branch rule has been created. So that's the feedback mechanism that we're going to use in our updates, is using toast. There's no save button on the page, everything is just dynamic. So let's go in. So what we're going to do now is editing allowed to merge. So I click on the edit button, this thing pops up. Administrators and maintainers are currently selected, and so those roles are selected here. If there are more roles to be added, they can be added to the top here, and that's fine. Here to add users and groups, and we would type it in, search for them, and as we find them, we can add them to our list. We click update, and we see that our allowed to merge little table here, little GL card, has a table with roles and users and groups listed out there. There's a toast that pops up, and you can undo the change. The next thing we're going to do is doing the push and merge part, similar to before, but the only difference here is that you can search for deploy keys as well for pushing, and once that's resolved, we have a key with the name of the deploy key itself. This is much better than just displaying the key alone. ideally on hover of these we would show a pop-up of the users, but for these badges here, a pop-up is not really necessary, but we could introduce something there to display who owns this key and potentially what the pattern of the hash key could be. So now we added some people here, and what you can see that's different is that there's no line here or no force pushing. Now that we added people in here who can push, we're using progressive disclosure to reveal extra functionality, because there's no point of showing allowed to force push if there's no one allowed to push. So that's the idea of just revealing this once you have someone some roles, groups, or deploy keys set here. So when that was added, you get a toast and you can undo. We have a click allow force push because it's a toggle, it's immediate, so we're going to go allow force push is enabled. Same thing with code owners, it's a toggle, so immediately after pressing that it updates. The next thing that we're going to do is change this number from a 1 to a 2, and this is how it currently works for merge request approvals right now. For all eligible users, you change the number and it changes, but there's no feedback. So the feedback we're going to use here is using the toast again. So that's that. What's next? Adding merge request approval rules. So we have something called a coverage check, and that check is run when the test coverage decreases. We can work on the name here, but the idea is that you can add your approval rules, some standard ones that exist, such as the coverage check or your own custom one. The flows are pretty much the same as it is currently today, where you specify the rule name, approvals, and the different groups and users here. Yeah, I don't think there's roles here, so we can just remove that for now. Groups and users. The difference between the branch rules approach is that the target branch is already determined by the pattern up here, and so that field for selecting a branch is not here for approval rule. So that's the difference. Yep, you found some people. In the coverage check one, the name you can't change, and potentially we can add some description about what this coverage check can do, and that approval rule. So once that's added, you can see that we would use the toast for each individual rule that got added, and then if a rule got updated, we would show the toast again and potentially have the undo button on it as well. Once that's done, we have our status checks. This is a lot more straightforward. Clicking add status checks opens up a modal. You enter your service name, your API to check, add status check, and boom, you're in business here. And so you get the toast for feedback, and this is your overall page for branch rules for editing. And yes, I think the biggest part for feedback is whether this is necessary or if there's other ways to present this information. Some things that I was been thinking about is moving this description inside here so that it's part of this block. So that might be something that could be done. But I do like the idea of using progressive disclosure, that once you add roles in here, then you would show these two things. Yes, so that is editing branch rules, and it feels like it's not too far off from where we're at right now, but I think it's just active refinement over the last couple of months to get us to this state. So your feedback's greatly welcome.